Okay, we are recording. This is the Pelagic Sailing Club, the workshop on the Eldridge Tide and Pilot book. It is Thursday, February 25th, 2021. We just started talking about Eldridge and the Cape Cod Canal. Do we have more? And somebody started asking a question a second ago.
So
Bill.
I basically was a motorboat in lakes guy, so sailing in the ocean's new to me. So
Yeah.
I have a funny question for the
Yeah.
canal. Does the water always run in the same direction in the canal?
Well, it goes in both directions. It
Well,
goes,
I'm talking about the flow of the water. In other words,
yes,
does it
it
change with the
goes.
tide?
Let me get back. Let me get back on to sharing the screen to. Okay, as you can see here, the flow is going. I'm going to say east and towards the east. It'll do
Okay.
that for 6 hours.
All right.
Until the tide changes, then it will flow back towards the west.
Oh, that's basically what I was wondering, if it's always flowed in one direction or if it actually changed. Thank
No,
you.
it's not like a river always flowing in one direction. That's
Okay.
the reason for sailing. See, right now, I'm looking here that there's a, there's a 3.7 knot current. That's probably the railroad bridge or in that range. So, and at a little while ago was a 4.25 knot current. So when you got a 5 or 6 knot boat, to try to fight a 4 to 4.5 to 5 knot current, or even a 3 knot current, is really difficult.
Yeah,
if you got a 15 knot, 20 knot boat, it's still a factor, but it's not nearly as much of a factor.
Okay.
Percentage wise.
Craig,
Yeah.
Craig, how do these nodes and peak troughs, the troughs and the peaks, correspond to the times for ebb and flow?
How does, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I follow your question.
Okay, when you, like, if you look at the Eldridge, it talks about east flood starts at a time and ebb starts when it's going west.
Okay,
so
well, let's look that up. What's the date? The 25th. Okay, according to this, the ebb will start at 9:24 p.m. That's Woods Hole. Never mind. Who's running this thing? Cape Cod Canal.
Page 46.
Yeah, 46. I apologize. So what's the time that the tide starts? The 25th. The next tide it will ebb again at 8:36 p.m. Now let's see where 8:36 p.m. is here. 8:22, 8:24, 8:34. So it's interesting that it's just about at the zero. Look at that. Can you see the zero? Look on the left.
Yeah.
And you will see that we're just about zero. So 2 minutes off from the time here. I just can't get it any more accurate than that. So it looks like they correlate very closely. Does that answer your question?
No, I was asking more about, like, if you look at the trough, what does that correspond to in Eldridge?
You're talking here?
Yeah, for example.
Okay, that is the maximum current at 11, 11-ish o'clock in the morning. Now, let's go back here to the 25th and
it's about 3 hours before the
right. It's just typical. Think of it. When is the maximum current going to be? About halfway through the tide cycle. So, and that seems to correlate there, right?
Okay.
Now, I will say, when you're using, this is Open CPN, which I've been pushing because I think it's a very good for free thing. for working within a few days, this is a really good program because you can look at a whole place. But if I want to look at something in July, I have to keep pushing this next, and it'll go one day at a time. So I'm going to have to push this about 100 times to get I've been pushing it a whole bunch of times, and I'm still in March. So it doesn't work for going a long ways in advance. If we're going to go on a trip this weekend, I can take a look at one of these and I can say, okay, what I want to do, it's now Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, I can get up here and I can see here that the current is about, it's a quarter of a knot. It's almost possibly at exactly 0, but at 9:22 a.m. it'll be in a quarter of a knot, and and so you can see that. But if I go down there at 12:26, so at 12:30, it's going to be 4.3 knots against me, or with me, depending which way I'm going.
Craig, what is the axis on the right?
I think that's the angle. It's flowing at 245 degrees magnetic versus 65 degrees. So it's going
it's east-west.
East and west, basically, right.
It's probably actually true direction.
Right, it's going 65 above the 0 and 245 below below. So over here, it's flowing at 245 degrees. I'm going to call it west, and over here it's going, northeast and southwest. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go. If there's any more questions on the Cape Cod Canal, because that's one of the biggest navigation bugaboos for a sailor there is trying to get. A lot of people never go through the canal, and the trick of going through the canal is just reading Eldridge. I am going to go here, stop share, and I'm going to okay, this is actually from last year's. I haven't scanned this year's in yet, but let's look at the Pollock Rip. Does anybody know where Pollock Rip is?
Yeah. Southeast of Cape Cod.
Right, it's south of Monomoy, east of Cape Cod. It's in a fictitious location. If you don't know where it is, or if you don't have a really good chart, you can't even find it. It doesn't really matter. It's a point. It covers all of the, this whole area in here. So we've got, all of Buzz's Bay over here, Vineyard Sound and Nantucket Sound. So it covers a lot of area. So let's look at how to read the Pollock Rip current table. What's the difference between a current table and a tide table? Does anybody know?
Well, the current, it appears, can get stronger or weaker or flow in opposite directions like the
Right.
canal, and the tide is basically based on the moon and those changes.
Well, they're both based on the moon, but yeah, you're right. It's the tide will tell you that it's high tide at, let's call it noon, and a low tide at 6. The current will tell you when the current is starting, and then it will say on the right how strong it's going to be. So let's look at May 1st. First of all, the columns are day of the month, day of the week. Current turns to, so this is when it starts going northeast, which they're calling flood, and southwest, which they're calling ebb. And by the way, they got 2 months per page. They have an AM. Somebody have a question? And a PM. PM, by the way, is always in bold. So on Friday, May 1st, in Pollock Rip, the flood starts at 10 o'clock, 10:12 in the morning. And roughly 12 hours later, 11 o'clock at night. The speed of the current will be 1.9 knots, and the stronger current will be in the AM, which is what that A stands for. Let's go down here, look at, wow, 1.9 is a lot smaller than anything else we're seeing down here for quite a while. See, we're going up to 2.1, 2.3, 2.4. So you can see that on May 1st, we don't have a killer tide. And if you looked at the killer currents, and if you look at the tide tables, you would find that we don't have a big tide either. So this gives you a good indication. And if I go down to the bottom of the page, it says the average flood is 2 knots and the average ebb is 1.8 knots. So the average is 2, and we found that on this day we're 1.9. So it's slightly less than average. So what does that mean? We don't have a killer current that day. It's more or less average. 2 knots and 1.9 isn't much difference. Any questions on this?
Hey, Craig, you're using the 2020 book.
I know, haven't had a chance to scan in 2021 yet. I apologize.
No,
So-
I didn't do that. I didn't have the same times. I was looking. I was like,
Trying to screw you up here. So what I do is a little chance. Yeah, okay, so May 1st is 6:49 a.m. Okay, so definitely a difference. And so I'm just going to use this because it's easy, and as long as, and I don't mind using the 6:49 a.m. I will tell you something, some hints that I do. Notice that there's a highlight here every once in a while. I just pull out my little yellow highlighter, and when I get the book, I just highlight every Saturday and Sunday. What that does is it makes it, first of all, since a lot of times we're doing sailing on weekends, it's something I can quickly do there. And it also just helps me, even though I'm on the Friday or Monday, it's easy to line up if I've got some lines there. So I do that on all of these and doing that. A trick, a very significant trick on this. On June 6th, the flood starts at 3:54. I'm going to go 1 week later and notice that the ebb starts at 4:06, which is almost the exact opposite. 5 minutes before, 4 minutes before, 6 minutes before 4, or 6 minutes after 4. So it's 12 minutes difference. If you are going to be doing a trip and you find the currents really suck this week on the if you want to leave on June 6th and the currents are all against you, plan your trip to leave a week later or a week earlier, because they're going to be almost identically opposite tides. Does that make sense to people?
Sure does.
Dead silence.
Yes, yes.
And it's also good if you're taking a week-long vacation. Well, gee, we're going to be leaving on the 6th, and the flood is starting at let's call it 4 o'clock, and we're going to be returning the following Saturday or Sunday. And gee, the ebb, it's going to be the ebb is going to start at the same time, so we can use the current in our favor all the way. Because again, that makes sense. Am I going too fast here for people?
No, this is perfect.
So what you're saying is plan your vacation for 6 days, so you're going with the flood and you're coming back with the flood. Or the ebb.
That is
Yeah.
thing. I mean, you don't want to do that strictly that, but I do definitely look at it. It might be that, well, gee, actually, let's look at one of these. I'm going to go back to May 1st. The flood starts, I'm just going to say 11 o'clock. It's easy. I'm going to go to the current charts. And here is the current charts. So notice how I highlighted here and I put in here big start. So the flood starts. So what did we just find out? That the flood starts at 11 o'clock on this date. And again, I apologize, I'm using last year's data. So if we were going to be in onset, this is onset right here. That's a lot of place when we pull through the canal, we stay in there. If we left at 11 o'clock, there's no current, weak current in the Cape Cod Canal, but we have 0.4 knots of current in Buzzards Bay. Can we handle 0.4 knots of current? Yeah, I think we can handle 0.4 knots of current. I'm going to go look down here 1 hour later. What time is it when it's 1 hour later?
Well, 12 o'clock.
Right. So, so at 12 o'clock, if we were to leave onset at this point, onset's here, the current in the canal is 2.3 knots pushing us this direction. Wow, that's quite a difference. On a 5-knot sailboat, you've just cut your speed in half. And we look down here, and the current down when it widens out is a 1/2 knot. A 1/2 knot isn't too much. But if we go look at Woods Hole, we got a little bit of current there. So 2 hours after we started, what time will that be?
1 o'clock.
Amazing. Somebody's got math here. The current in the Cape Cod Canal is 3.3 knots. Again, if you got a 5-knot, is somebody here texting me? I'm just going to see who the text is. Excuse me for a minute.
I could, while we're waiting for Craig, there's another trick to keep in mind. The word web, west ebb, not all of your tidal currents show direction east and west. They just say flood or ebb.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Craig? So west ebb, like Jack Webb, the actor.
Uh-huh.
Yes and no. That is kind of what it is, but let's look down here at Vineyard Sound. Look at Vineyard Sound. The current is 1 knot going southwest. At the exact same time, the current in Buzzards Bay is northeast at 0.6 knots, 0.4 knots.
Craig,
Yeah.
is the current in the canal this time, is it going northwest or northeast,
Yes.
I should say? Okay, so it would
Yes.
be behind you.
Yes, more or less, when the current in Buzzards Bay, the canal current follows the Buzzards Bay current. So if the current is here, notice that I put an arrow here. There is a little tiny arrow totally buried in here. I actually used to have one of the big, huge books that's, about this big, so that each one of these pages is way bigger. And you can see the arrow. You can't see it here. Even if I blow this up, you can barely see it. I have actually put on every single one of these pages an arrow here. You'll see that there's an arrow on every single one. I really recommend that you do that if you're going through the canal at all. One of those texts was Ellen. She's still at work, so I guess she's not going to join us, but she can. Let's see. I'm still. I think I'm still recording. Does anybody see a recording button on here?
Yes, you're okay.
Okay. So, again, we have the currents going over there. Let's look at what we're doing down here. If we're sailing through Buzz's Bay, this is Buzz's Bay. Okay, 0.4, 0.6 knots. It's a current. Can you fight on a 5-knot boat? Can you do a half a knot, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 knots against you? Yeah, probably. But let's see. I'm going to go down here to another page. Down here in Vineyard Sound, we got 2.1, 2.5 knots of current. Then look at down here. This is how many hours? This is 5 hours after the flood. So it's just before the ebb starts. And we got the really big currents here. We've got 3.9, 3.2, 3.4, 2.9, 2.9. That's a lot of current. If you're coming out of Woods Hole and trying to get over to Vineyard Haven or Oak Bluffs or Nantucket Sound, well, it's going to be really making you fly. If you're trying to sail back the other direction, you're going to end up here in Falmouth when you're trying to get to Woods Hole. So you really have to make a credit for there. Notice down here in Quick's Hole, does everybody recognize Quick's Hole here? We have a 3.1 knot current pushing us through. Well, gee, if we're going from Buzz's Bay down to here, great. If you're trying to go from here up to there, yeah, it's not terribly long. So yeah, you'd be doing 2 knots through the water. And I've done it. Boy, oh boy, it seems like you're just sitting there. You pedal to the metal and you're barely moving. So, and then down here, Canapitsit, you got 2.6 knots and is it 2.7? Oh, I'm sorry, that's Quick's Hole. I'm sorry. Robinson's Hole was 3.1 and Quick's Hole is 2.7. My mistake. So any questions? I don't want to go. Now, when the ebb starts, notice we have weakened variable here through a lot of Buzz's Bay. And we have a 0.3 knot. We have a weak current in the canal. We already have 0.7 knots outside the canal. And down here in Woods Hole, we got some current, which actually shows you up here better. I'm going to make this slightly smaller. Oops, sorry.
That earlier chart, Craig, corresponds to the time of day that ebb would start, correct?
No, it's
No?
yes and no. Remember, we had to start with it's a very good question, actually, the tide data.
Yes,
So
right.
tell me the date you want to start your trip. You want to start it on July 1st?
Okay.
Okay, let's say we want to leave on July 1st at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's call it 8:42 because it happens to be 2 hours after 6:42, right? Does that make sense? See this?
Yeah, but okay. Yeah, you're looking at ebb start. Okay, yes, I see.
Okay, no, I'm just saying I want to leave. I'm going to be in Onset or Pick a Harbor at 6:42, 8:42. I want to be leaving. Where my guests are arriving at 8:15. We figure we're going to leave Onset at 8:42. Okay, that means we're 2 hours after the ebb starts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now we have to go to the current chart, and I'm glad you asked this. Ebb starts at 6:42.
Mm-hmm.
What time is it now?
8:42.
7:42. See,
Yeah.
now it says 2 hours after ebb starts. So this is 8:42.
All right, I see. I see it now. Yeah.
So we're in Onset. Well, look at here. It says the canal, the current in the canal is, what's it, 3.8 knots, I think it says.
Yeah.
and it's pushing us this direction. Well, the current in onset is going to be almost identical. So when we come out of onset, the current's going to be pushing us down here really quick. And we're going to get, so we're going to be flying down this direction. Now let's look at 3 hours after. What time will it be?
9:42.
9:42, right. Okay, now if we look up here, we're going to be a good 5 miles further down from onset, but we had a 3+ knot current, so we're probably going to be 8 miles down. So we're going to be somewhere in here. So we started here. We're probably going to be way down here. Okay, so we look for the currents down here. We got 0.4 knots, still doing this. If we're going down towards Cuddy Honk or Woods Hole, wow, did we pick a good time to start, right? Now let's look an hour later. What time will it be then?
10.
Right, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10:42. So we get down here and we're going another 5, and well, the current wasn't nearly as bad, so it's just going to be, let's call it 5 miles. I don't like to take credit for the current being in our favor unless it's a big current. If it's a 3-knot current, yeah. If it's a 0.5 knot current, yeah, you get enough other things. So we're going to be down here somewhere or here. Now what's the current? Weak and variable. Well, nothing wrong with weak and variable. It's not hurting us. It's not helping us very much. Now let's look at if we wanted to go through Woods Hole. Wow, we got a 3.6 knot current against us. But we're still not quite there yet. We're going to be another hour maybe. So we're going to 10:42, 11:42. Let's see. See, the current is already starting to weaken in Woods Hole, and there's still not much current in Buzzards Bay. So if we were sailing down to Woods Hole, we're a little bit early here, but we might be able to punch our way through there. Or we may want to pull over here into Hadley's Harbor for lunch. Am I going too fast?
Nope.
Okay. So I want to say, when can I start going through Woods Hole? Well, we can look at Eldridge, but let's look at here instead. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to go up to the beginning again. Okay, now let's go back to the tide data. Remember started at 6:42. Now we're somewhere near 11:42. Well, it's actually 12:30 when the flood starts. Notice it again, we're at the PM. So let's see where we are at 12:30 noon. The current is weak here. Over here in Woods Hole, we still have a 1.1 knot current against us and 0.2 knots on the other side. Yeah, I might fight that. Let's go an hour later. What time is it now?
1:42.
1:42.
1:30.
1:30.
You know something? Since we're not sure, let's go back over here. 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and do that or write it down. I get up there, and by the way, that's one of the reasons I put these things, because since I so often start on a Saturday or Sunday, that they're already highlighted. And it's okay to pull out your little pen or pencil and circle the dates that you want to, this is a thing. Okay, so 12:30, 1:30. Okay, Woods Hole, aha, the current is now with us, 0.4, 0.6. And if I go to Eldridge, does anybody know where the Woods Hole currents are? We were on August 1st. Excuse me, last sneeze. Woods Hole on August 1st.
If you look at the,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on last year's. I'm on last year's thing. So, actually, if I
56.
If you go to page 60, you get actual diagrams.
Right. Okay, on flood starts at 3:24 p.m. I can just barely see it here on this page. So, and that's kind of agrees with what we had guesstimated on here. We were at 3:30 and the current is already 0.4 and 0.6 knots. Okay, so we're a few minutes after the current started. I know I'm going through a lot of stuff here. Keep telling me to stop whenever you have questions.
Craig, notice how useful they have the hours after high tide or low tide in Boston. If you've got a tide clock on your boat, that can really make things a little easier.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with doing that too.
January 26, 2021.
Somebody's got some recording going on. Can you mute yourself?
And 5:30 p.m. Local time at 6 Christina Turkey Hill Village.
You might want to mute, Betty.
Safety measures to protect both you and our employees, including protective gear, social distancing minimums, and
There.
Thank you.
Betty, I muted you, sorry. You can unmute yourself when that thing's finished. Yes, Daryl mentioned that down here, it says or 5 hours after high water in Boston. That's perfectly valid, especially if you have a high water clock. Since I do this for planning, I use these tide tables and Pollock Rip, but there's nothing wrong with that. And whatever works for you is the right answer. So, by the way, you notice what I do each year? I copy the data and keep a printout copy of this in color that I keep in my living room. Then I take the Eldridge to the boat. So I've got a copy in both places. I'm not sure if Eldridge wants to find that out though. So I deny it. Again, what do we have for questions and where are we here?
Is there an electronic version of Eldridge?
What's that?
Is there an electronic version?
Not that I know of, but we, Peg Palmer, who's got something else tonight, pointed out that there are still a few more copies of Eldridge available for discount if anybody wants them. So, go to page 91 on this year's Eldridge, if you got it there. It looks. Can you see that? Daryl pointed out that, you know, which way the currents are flowing. And this is a good current diagram. One of the things that's neat, because I used to do a lot of sailing. I lived in New London for many years. And the moniker is ebbs east, and it really does ebb east and floods west. You notice, well, you can't see it very easily, but there's a double arrow on one end and a single arrow on the other. It turns out that the south of Newport is kind of the epicenter. The currents go into Buzzards Bay and Nantucket Sound in one direction, while at the same time going into Long Island Sound in the other direction.
Yeah.
So where that can be used to your favor, if you're leaving the Connecticut River or New London or Mystic or someplace down here, and you start getting the ebb tide, and so you get a knot or two of current pushing you this direction. If you get off of Newport just about the time the tide changes, then you can use the next tide pulling you right into Cuttyhunk or Buzzards Bay. So it's a very, knowing that and timing your trips is really good. So, and on the other page, it just shows you where what the maximum currents are for Newport Harbor. And there's typically, shows you, sometimes gives you two numbers if there's much of a difference between them.
Yeah. Just an FYI, Craig, you have the screen share up, so when you hold the page up, it's small. I think if you
Good point.
move
Thank
that.
you. There.
Now, if you hold the page up, I think I'd be able to see it, but I don't have the book, so shame on me.
Shame
Now
on
you
you.
switch on to speaker view.
Oh, yeah, if you'd gone to speak of you, but I didn't, yeah, that would have. What was that page I had there a minute ago? There it is, page 91. So,
Yeah, well, that helps. Yes, I
yeah,
can see the
I know.
arrows. Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, so they do have it. I always use the, I can go back to share, but the Long Island Sound, all of Long Island Sound is much more consistent at it. The entire sound ebbs east for about 6 hours and it floods west. I happen to know where I lived, it was about an hour off. So I would just subtract an hour on it.
Mhm.
So again, I'm going to share a screen. And we started going over it. So how you do this is you kind of figure out where you're going to be at each hour. So you remember, we started here at 8:42. Where am I going to be at 9:42? I'm going to be roughly here because I can look at the side here. Where am I going to be at 10:42? 11:42. Okay, and I want to take a look at the next tide table and, oh gee, when I get down here in Vineyard Sound, what is going to happen there. The quiet group tonight. Am I putting everybody to sleep?
No, Craig,
No.
if you go back to that, what is the river that comes out that's 1.7? I come across Nantucket Sound. Yeah, right there. What is that?
That looks like Chuck Mitchell's place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that is.
you can that strong a current. No wonder it can be so tough getting in and
Yeah,
out of there.
right. Yeah, that looks like Onset. I'm not Onset. I mean Martha Mills and Cotuit and all that. Yes, there's quite a current that goes in and out of there, and it's a long ways up. Last summer, as many of you know, Chuck Mitchell let us use his dock, and he's offered it several times in the past. That's the first time I've ever been there. Even though he wasn't there, his wife was had between COVID and some medical things happening. They stay down in Florida, but they were very nice to let us use their dock. They've done that before. They're not doing much with the club anymore, but they still are, pretty much says, come on down and visit. They got a gorgeous, 140-foot long dock that we could use.
And then Hyannis is 1.6. Look at
Yeah.
that. I never, going in and out of those places, I never realized that it was that strong.
Yeah. Well, you go in 1.6. Let's look at, see, one of the things I do is I keep, skimming back and forth, 1.5. So yeah, you go, you can, you can look to see what the maximum. By the way, my yellow highlights here are, well, there's a couple of errors in here, but they're typically the maximum current, like 3.7. I highlighted the maximum current, so I can notice at a glimpse that I'm at the maximum current. Then if I go the following hour, oh, it's 3.6, so I've gone a little bit past it. So it kind of gives me an idea. I love highlighting like this, and that's the reason I scanned this after I highlighted it, so that I can just take a quick look at this. And I always highlight that 4 hours after flood. I don't need to do the whole thing, just 4 flood. That means I add 4 hours of the flood data. Notice down here, 4.4 knots, try to go there. You know, I haven't seen Ken Sovey here. Is he here? He's gonna be doing a round vineyard this summer. What happens if you get here about now, if he's trying to sail south through here?
It's gonna
That's right.
stress.
Yeah, he's gonna have, and there's shallow here and shallow here. So, and the wind is coming, coming southwest. So,
His race is July 20th.
well, let's take a look. Who's gonna be the first one to find out when the current is on July 20th? That's on a Tuesday. You sure of that?
I think that's what he told us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the ebb starts at 6:30 a.m. and the flood starts at 12:18. So 6:30. So what time does the race start? Usually like 10:30. So he's going to be starting. So let's go 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. So 4 hours after the ebb. Let's see where we are here. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. That's 1 hour after the ebb, 2 hours after the ebb, 3 hours after the ebb. So that's 10:30. So, oh wow, if he leaves here now, he's got 3.7 knots of current, 1.8, 3.7 knots of current with him. Now, if you were to leave an hour earlier, you have 1.6 and 3.1. Woohoo! Yeah, he wants to be leaving relatively early. So, so this is what time? This is 2 hours, 6:30. This is 8:30 in the morning. So let's see when he could. Okay, so there's slack. Okay, if this is 1 hour, so there's 7:30 in the morning. He's going to have no current here, and if he got down this far, it'd be so he'd, if he wanted to do this the smart way, he would want to leave at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Does that make sense?
I think he leaves from Oak Bluffs, right?
He leaves what?
From Oak Bluffs.
Oak Bluffs is up here. Okay. So, okay. See, now at Oak Bluffs, again, this is 1 hour after the ebb. So that's 7:30 in the morning. Would be having a half a knot current with him here. And it'd probably be another hour before it got down to there. So it'd be 0.9 knots and 1 knot. So boy, he has a current with him all the way, and by another hour. So 3 hours after, he'd be definitely, the current is helping him all the way. But if we were to leave 3 hours after the ebb, so 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, look at this, he's got a 1.2 knot current against him here. See how you can plan this? I wouldn't certainly not want to try to be leaving then. Whereas an hour earlier, well, this current is starting to, notice how we seem to have an eddy here? The current is a half a knot this way. It doesn't have what the speed here, but the current is starting to turn against us in here. So it sounds like we've got a little bit of a eddy of a current, but the current is helping us here. If he had an option, he would want to leave on the early side. And I expect they may do that on the race things too. Of course, then you have to look at where you're going to be when you're way over here. You see, right now there's no current over here, but a few hours later, it's going to be up here at noontime, 12:18. See, we're going to have. We've got some miles here, you got like 15 miles. Here, let's look up here. There's 10 miles. You can see the 10 miles there. So 10 miles is going to take you about here. So it's going to be about 3 hours afterwards. So, so at noon time, it's probably going to be at least 1 or 2 o'clock before you're over here. And, you have a little bit of current against you. Well, gee whiz, we may have timed it right, because here we are 2 hours after, so the 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the current is, slack down here, still against us up here. Oh my goodness, look at this. It's starting to turn with us. We got 2 knots of current up here right near hedge fence. And this is 4 hours, so this is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And, you know, we got 3.9 current, we got 2.4, we got 0.8, so 2.3. So we got a pretty good current. So if we left here early in the morning, we could be back here in the afternoon. They have the current pretty much with us all day long. Does that make sense to people?
Mhm.
Sure
Now
does.
now you have to figure in the wind direction.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's going at 5 knots all the way, you know, and a southwest wind, yeah, when you're going here, you know, you may have to do some tacking. But hopefully your boat can really do more than 5 knots. So you're doing, you know, 5.5, 6 knots, you know, maybe you make up for that. Now, if we were going around the other way, I'd love to be coming up through here when you get a 4.4 knot current with me.
Mhm.
But I don't want to be going this way. I know I'm going through a lot of stuff here quickly.
That was a very interesting way to demonstrate it, Craig.
Good.
So the planning meeting, we talked about going to Provincetown.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we
So,
don't have a chart. There's no map of that. I can do that on, I'm going to stop share here and then reshare. Oh, there's people here. Hi, people. Okay. Okay, here's P-Town. And there's Buzzards Bay over there. And there's a canal here. There's Plymouth. And if I go up here, let me turn off these currents. Oops, it's right in my way here. Let me do this.
Do you have a plan to go out and around the Cape?
Well, if we want to go around the Cape, we've got, I have this canal here. Takes, from P-Town to Nantucket is 73.5 miles. That's a long ways. And you're exposed through much of it. And as you can see here, there's Pollock Rip, by the way, in here. Let's see if I can zoom in here.
Out of curiosity, aren't there any charts for going around the Cape in terms of tides? I didn't notice any in the book.
No.
No, there's no guides there.
Okay, here's Pollock Rip channel. Can you see it here? And there's the end of Monomoy. So it's basically, it's the end of Monomoy. So you got a lot of, you know, pretty hairy waters in here. You really have to be paying attention when you're sailing around here. This is actually Pollock Rip here, and the Pollock Rip channel goes down through here. But yeah, there's, you can get in trouble easily here if you're not paying attention. It's not terribly difficult navigation, but it's not easy navigation either. So getting back to the P-Town trip, what was the questions there or comments?
Well, what we were planning on doing 2 days in P-Town, Saturday and Sunday, and maybe leaving on Monday morning. So we got to compute the distance from P-Town to the east end of the canal and figure what time we have to arrive there.
Well, let's take a look at that. Oops, let me plug my phone, my
About
battery.
25 miles.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Now, what day is this?
that's what was in question. We were looking at the tides and the currents to determine what day. It would be in July.
Right.
Okay, well, let's look at the
Leaving on
July.
a weekend and staying for a couple nights in P-Town.
What page do we want to be on the Cape Cod Canal? Maybe in 48 or so?
49.
Page 49 in this year's Eldridge.
Mm.
On July 3rd, the current starts flooding east at 11:30 in the morning and starts going west at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, if we want to be heading towards P-Town, that'd be a perfect time. If you're going from Buzzards Bay to P-Town, if you could get, out here by 10 o'clock and over here by 11 o'clock, that would be perfect because, we can, be getting here late morning and have the canal with us and then go all the way to P-Town. Once you're out here, the current isn't that much. There is some current here. I'm going to show you some currents in here. Oops, I have to turn it back on though. Okay, here we are here up by, is that Ellis? Yeah, that's Ellisville. So we have, 0.37, so let's call it 0.4 knots, quarter knot, a third of a knot. So not a lot of current, but it's enough to, make a little bit of a difference. So am I not going to make that trip because of that? No, it's not true. Whereas up here, we've got over a knot of current that's just outside of Plymouth. So yeah, there's a knot of current is a real current. So you can see the currents here. But did somebody say it was 25 miles across here? That sounds about right. I can do a quick calculation here if you're not sure.
That's just a guess.
Let's, do we want to do here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now it says this unnamed route is 23 miles. Well, somebody guessed 25 miles. That's pretty done.
23.
So how long does it take to go 23, 25 miles? 4
5
hours.
hours.
Yeah. Now,
So,
if we go,
So Craig, if we were leaving P-Town on Monday to go through the canal and go to Red Brook Harbor. or Kingston
Hadley's.
Marine. Huh?
Hadley's
No.
Harbor.
No,
Well, you don't.
no, we were going to Red Brook and then Hadley's the next day.
Oh,
Right.
right, okay, or maybe
Right.
onset because it's easier once you get through the canal. It's totally changing the subject here, but, and I'm gonna turn off this. So what was the date on that?
The 5th, if you're doing if the Southern Fleet is coming up on the 3rd, and then we'd be heading south on the 5th, on Monday morning.
Okay, Monday morning, the 5th,
Ooh, not
the
good.
flood in the canal starts at 7:18 a.m. and that's going west. So you'd want to be through the canal by 1:18 in the afternoon,
Right.
which means you're going to be entering the canal before noon, like 11:30. So could you do that from the canal if you're going to be 4 hours, because you're going into the wind, so it's probably going to be 5 hours. Could you be there by noontime? Yeah, you'd have to leave kind of early.
You have to leave at 6.
Craig,
Yeah.
you just said that the flood starts at 7:18? It's the ebb that
So
starts.
the ebb starts at 18,
Yeah.
7:18.
So it's one of, yeah, I think,
I'm sorry, it's going west at 7:18 and the flood starts at 1:18. If I said it backwards, I apologize.
So you need to be,
Yeah, so,
you need to be 3 by 1.
Right. Now, it might be that you want to delay it till the next day, where the current starts at 2 o'clock. You know, the flood starts at 2 o'clock in the canal. So you'd have to be there at 12:30. So you leave, a little bit later.
Let's look at the weekend of the 17th, because I think they were trying to piggyback it so that Ken could go from the weekend
Okay,
race.
good idea. Okay, so the current is starting to flow east at 10:48, I'm sorry, 9:54 a.m. Well, that doesn't work, but it's going to be starting to flow west at 4:24 in the afternoon. So, we need to get that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it might be one of these things that the current's going to turn favorable 4:24. Gee, that allows you, if it's going to take 4 or 5, 6 hours, that means you could leave at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock from P-Town and get over here at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon and make it through to, say, Onset, spend the night in Onset. Why do I say Onset? Because Onset is, here's the canal here, and there's Onset. This is just about where the terribly rough water in the afternoon starts to get very rough through Long Island Channel. Anybody been through here in the afternoon in the summer?
Oh, yeah.
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 Whereas
Not recommended.
no, and it starts just about here, just past Onset. So you come flying out here and it's just starting to get bumpy, and you go into Onset and you stay in here. This is a great harbor, and they have decent services and stuff like that. You got a yacht club here, a marina here, a town marina there. You got restaurants all through here, and a good anchorage right here. So,
And
So-
the
Frank?
trail is well marked as long as you're there during the day. At night, it can be a little tricky because the people are out fishing. It's hard to tell what's a mark and what's a boat coming at you.
yeah. Right here is a perfect, I'm going to zoom in here.
that's
By
tough.
the way, they moved this can so you can see it. It used to be hidden here, so you couldn't see it until you were past this big thing. But yeah, people love to go fishing right here. So you get here at, 10 or 11 o'clock, you're bleary-eyed from a long day sail, and all of a sudden you have 3 boats fishing right in the middle of the channel, and you got a 3 or 4 knot current pushing you by it. It wakes you right up. And none of these buoys in here are lighted. So yeah, you really have to have your spotlights on, and I always like to have 2 navigators, myself and at least one other person. Somebody's looking at the paper chart, somebody's looking at the chart plotter. And there is one little trick in here. When you get in here, it looks like nice, big, wide open. What's this little 2 mean?
It's shallow.
Yeah, and it's not marked.
Mhm.
Why it's not marked, I have no idea. I've seen people bounce off of that. I've always been nervous of it. There is this can just past it. So if you go down and don't turn until you get past this can, you're all set. But there's good anchorage right over here.
Frank?
Yes,
The thought to go for the weekend to Provincetown, stay a couple of nights, and then head back after that to wherever you said, the Red Brook or whatever.
right. Well, someone mentioned Kingman's, that's all. So that's Red Brook Harbor.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's
But-
just a little past there.
But I think what Craig just showed us was coming back on Saturday and Sunday, wasn't it? Rather than going out to Provincetown.
I'll tell you my prejudice, because I've done it a few times. When you're coming through the canal in the afternoon, it's very difficult to get from Onset to Pocasset or Red Brook because of the southwest winds and that chop in there. It's just nasty. So I really recommend on the way, but on the way back, that's the time to stop in Kingman's because yeah, it's an hour longer the next day, but you're leaving in the morning, the wind's not stiff, and if you got the current with you, it's not a bad crossing at all. So I recommend stopping in Kingman's at the tail end, not the beginning end.
Yeah, well, I didn't pick Kingman. Someone else mentioned that.
Yeah,
I usually stop at Onset, but that's a tight turn there.
it is a tight
Around
turn.
that rock pile.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden, when you get that current pushing you at about 1,000,000 knots, you do it. But you get out of the current very quickly. As soon as you get behind the rocks, the current goes from 3 or 4 knots down to, 1/2 or 3/4 of a knot.
All right. Well, this is just, it's in the planning stages.
Yeah, well, it's good to plan it.
Yeah. So,
What else we got tonight?
well, I don't know.
Meryl, is that you with long hair?
It's my COVID here.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, how are you? It's been a long time.
Good. I've hidden away. I didn't sail. I kayaked all summer. I just stayed away from everybody. So, yes, and it got long.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
And mine got white.
It's all the result of COVID,
Yeah, Meryl, it's been a couple of years since I've seen you.
I know.
I was up in Salem with Russ
Yeah.
last time. Yeah. Well,
That
was
was
the first
right.
time.
It was when we did. That was before you were as you were both becoming members. Yeah,
Correct.
so I've kind of kept to myself last winter, and
Yes,
this
so.
winter I'm coming out of my nest because I am going to have a shot, and I will at least feel like I can be with people.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, now I heard that Barbara's going to get her shot.
Yeah.
I'm getting my second shot.
Did you get an appointment, Barbara?
Yeah. In Newburyport, right down the road.
Oh, that's good for you. I have to go to Springfield.
Oh,
You have to go to Linfield?
About an hour and 7 minutes from me.
Springfield, she said.
Oh, Springfield. I'm sorry. I thought you said Linfield.
Yeah,
You
no,
said Springfield earlier, yeah.
There's nothing available in Worcester. You have to either go east or west. You have to make a decision, go one way or the other. So I went west.
Yeah. So, and Barbara's got both of her shots, right, Barbara?
Yeah,
Who else has shots?
age made a big difference here.
It's the one time I wish I were older.
Barbara, are you coming up north this year?
I think I am. I miss all of you so much. I've had 2 shots. It depends on how things look in June. I don't have plans to do anything,
Mhm.
but I really miss being with all of you. So yeah, right now, my buddy Eric is here, and we've been talking about it. Am I gonna come north? And I think so. I
Good.
did. A week ago, I would have said no, absolutely not. But things look promising.
By the way, Ray and Betty, you haven't said much. You're both muted. If you want to unmute yourself, you can in the bottom left. So,
So everybody with boats, I'm going to need a place to stay.
You can
I
stay
live
with
out
me.
of the trunk of my car, but I don't like sleeping in it.
I know of a boat in Winthrop Yacht Club, and I happen to know the Vice Commodore,
Oh, well, thank you very much.
although he's a real jerk, I hear.
I've heard he's a really good navigator.
Just don't ask him to use Eldridge.
He likes to go in those little skinny places where you're sure you can't put your boat.
Yeah, I guess you're,
That's what
that's right.
kayaks are for.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Brian Hickey is leaving. So, all right, Brian, we'll see you. You're muted, I think.
Just so you know, Ray has a desktop computer and he can't talk.
Yeah, he was saying that earlier. He was going to try to get a hold of Chris to figure out how to do that. And there's also a way to call in by cell phone, but he didn't do that. No. So he's there. but he's got a nice boat that's being built in his tent behind his house. So and by the time he's 84 years old, he'll have it done.
Ambitious project.
Yeah,
That is.
it keeps him out of trouble during COVID times.
Uh-huh.
When do people think we'll start regular meetings again?
That's something I would love to be able to ask Chris, because I noticed that we have all virtual speakers this year. And I would think by July or August, the numbers are dropping very quickly. Oh, by the way, supposedly today, Governor Baker announced that we're reducing it. And I'm not sure if he announced this today, but they're going to be going to the new normal in just a few weeks.
And what is that?
Where they're relaxing the restrictions significantly.
Yeah, he mentioned it today, and the number of 100, and I don't know if that was for inside or outside for people.
Yeah, no, I'm getting pressure at our condo because I'm the chair of the trustees to reopen our clubhouse, and I've been pretty strict about keeping it shut to the point where the trustees and I, when people were sneaking in during the height of this, we changed the locks. We just weren't gonna put up with the bull, so we just changed the locks. So it's a matter of when when is the right time to open it up again. And I think it's going to have to be spring or summer when the windows can be open.
Yeah, I mean, with Johnson & Johnson being approved in next few days, that's going to be hundreds of millions of shots available, and that's only a single shot. And the numbers are going down very rapidly. I just can see that in the next few months, the numbers they're already down under 2%, and it used to be
by the end of the March having these variants come in and jack the numbers back up again because
they could. Yeah.
Actually, the last 2 days they've gone up.
Oh, have they? Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's not over. It's not
over, but I think I see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Just being able to get the shots will just be such a difference in our lives. So.
I now know more people have had the shots than have had COVID. So it's good. And there's what they say today is 46 million people have had shots now. Yeah.
Yeah. 43 or 46 million. Yeah.
It's not easy to schedule one. Let me tell you, it's quite the challenge.
Yeah. Barbara said they're making it a little bit easier now.
No, I already have my appointment for Sunday, but I went online today just because I know they dump a lot of numbers on Thursdays, and I figured, well, maybe I could find something closer, and before Sunday, and then I could just get that one. Well, I went on just for the heck of it, and I went on to Gillette just for the heck of it. Well, now they have a waiting queue, which is a good idea. So I clicked on it just out of curiosity. I was after there were 54,000 and something people ahead of me.
There were 101,000 ahead of me at 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
101,000.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're not there.
But then I got my personal invitation from Beth Israel, and I just had to click on one link and tell them what day I wanted to be there, and that was it.
I thought the hospitals weren't doing it anymore. I thought that Charlie Baker.
It's been changed back now.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not going totally smoothly, but they're getting there.
Well, the thing is, you hear one thing, then you hear another thing, and then another thing, and you really don't know. I don't even have a clue. In the Worcester area, UMass had a clinic, and they were going to, my doctor's with UMass, and great, I was going to get a call, but then they shut that down after 10 days. And then St. Vincent's, which is here too, is using the Boston State University, and they had to close down because they didn't have vaccines. And just in this area, there's just absolutely like it's a desert. It really is ridiculous. So, you can't get into the senior center had some, you can't get into the senior center because their link is broken on the website. So,
oh, geez.
Yeah. Well, 3 weeks ago, I didn't believe it because I was doing it on ski patrol, and I'm inactive this year. Yeah. And so I came in armed with letters from the ski patrol director and my NSP cards, and and I had like 4 or 5 pieces of paper to prove it. And I got in there and they says, what's your name? What's your birth date? Get over there. Go over
Yeah,
there.
you know what does bug me? It's like now it's open to people with 2 comorbidities, which is good, except that they don't check on people. It's all on a system. So you're
Right.
finding a lot of people just walking right in, and the same thing with people with the companion person. So it's hard for those people that are truly eligible to get.
It's never going to be 100%, but it's they're doing it pretty well. I mean, the fact that they did the nursing homes and the first responders first, I think that's cool. The doctors, and every doctor I know has now gotten their second shot. It seems like.
Yeah, I think so.
So I have a question for Phil. You said you were a power boater. Have you purchased a sailboat? Are you crew? Are you just trying it out? What are you doing?
So with Pelagic, I'm crew. I
Uh-huh.
went out. I went out with Daryl. I went out with Ken Sovey.
Mhm.
I do have a project sailboat. It's a 36-year-old 22-footer with a
Mhm.
swing keel on it, and
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, there's a lot of chatter that you're going to have trouble getting insurance on it if you don't already have it.
Well, I had it last year, and
Okay.
I had it in Rye Harbor, and I probably got the bottom wet 3 times, I think. But it was just not a good year for sailing.
Well,
Period.
don't let the insurance die, because I'm hearing that is on boats over 20 years old, they're given real hard time insuring
Okay.
them.
Yeah. No, I had no problem. I think with U.S. boat, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm kind of again, I was a power boater for years, and I've been out of the boating, culture for maybe 15 or 20. I took my U.S. Coast Guard in the 90s. But I went out to Black Rock sailing there in Boston, and
It's a good
I
place.
got certified 101, ASA 101, and you know, I just something to do in my retirement, something new to learn. And
Who was
so
your
yeah, I'd like to
instructor?
be crew. I'd like to do some crewing with folks this summer, hopefully, knock on wood. I've had my shots. I drive a bus for an agency that works with persons with disabilities. They go in their home, so I was qualified under that statute in Group 1. So I got my second shot Monday.
Good. So another week and a half, you'll be just a little over a week, you'll be considered immune.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
So Daryl's my sponsor, right?
Uh-huh.
Thank you,
Good.
Daryl.
I first
And
met Phil with his 16-footer at a ramp right down the street from me in Methuen on the Merrimack River. He had just
Hmm.
hauled the boat out, I guess, or I can't remember, but I just pulled in there at the boat ramp and I said, "Hi, you need a hand with your mast, But he found some other link to the club even after that.
right, there was paperwork at the Black Rock Sailing School, pamphlets from Pelagic.
Mhm.
And I picked up yours and some others, and I scanned through them. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I may as well reach out to people that know something about it. And so here I am. This is going on 2 years now. And talking about tides and water flow and ebb and flood. I mean, in rivers and lakes that I've navigated, that wasn't really an issue. It's just know where the rocks are. So this is a whole whole bag. But
Fun though. It's really fun.
A lot of places, you don't, I mean, yeah, the fact that you got a half a knot or even a knot of current with you or again okay, it makes a difference. But, if it's only for a quarter or half a mile, who cares? But when you're down in Vineyard Sound, Nantucket Sound, a lot of the places down there, Cape Cod Canal, it's huge currents.
Merrimack River.
Merrimack River.
Sure.
Yeah, we did Hellgate on our way into New York down the East River. That's one you plan real well.
Yeah,
That could be a sleigh ride.
Yeah, but it's really fast. You went through there really fast, didn't you?
Timed it really right at the ebb. It was absolutely not an issue. And coming back somehow amazingly, we made it again. So it was like, okay, done that.
Yeah, well, that's where this book comes in handy. It's got Hellgate right in there, I believe.
It does.
How far north does it go, Craig?
It goes up to Portland, but
Portland,
all
okay.
of Maine is basically the same as Portland within 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
Actually, Portland and Boston really are very close.
Yeah.
So once you pass north of the canal, the tides aren't too much difference unless you get up like the Piscataqua River. You go inside of inside of a bay. Actually, there's a really neat picture here. Where is that one with the shows the?
It's a really fun book to own.
Yes,
There's a lot of it's actually interesting reading this stuff in it.
it is good reading, and I've read through it several times. I'm not coming up to it,
And
but
they come up with new articles each year. It's amazing how they've done that.
Hey, Craig,
yeah.
thank you very much for this. I'm going to sign out. I appreciate it. And I haven't really done much with Eldridge, but made it sound easy.
Yeah, it's a piece of cake. It's one of these things that does take some while. So yeah, I'm glad you signed in, Mark. And once you start using it, you'll see that it really is a handy book to learn how to use. But it does.
I
take
have
some
3 copies in Newburyport for sale.
Oh yeah, so yeah, anybody wants to buy one, talk to Barbara. She's
My
got
son lives in Newburyport. He
Oh,
moved
well,
there
if you need one, Phil.
a couple of years ago.
on page 161. I doubt if you can see it here, but if anybody's got one around 161, it shows you how in an inlet how it changes the tide, and it really is an incredibly good. Spend 10 minutes reading those, and it's worthwhile because it really shows you a lot. Page 161 on this year's, if every year they're pretty close. I mean, 161 may be off by a couple of pages, but it's right there. No.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sign off too. I haven't had my dinner, so.
Okay,
Oh.
I'll be
Seeing
over.
everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bill, if you
See
need
you.
a book, you know where to go.
And well,
Yeah.
when next time I'm over there, I'll give you a buzz. I don't go there that often right now.
You can always have them pick it up.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, all
Thanks,
right,
guys.
I guess
Thanks,
we'll
Craig.
cut this. All right, thanks everybody for coming.
Great
Thank
you,
seeing
Craig.
everybody.
That was-
Craig did a fantastic job as always. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank
Very,
you.
very informal for me. Thank you.
Good.
Those things you have to keep up with.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
All right, good night.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Night. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you.